right, so continuing on to our next topic, this speaker will be giving us a better picture of the disparities within hiring practices as it relates to diversity and inclusion through her survey that she conducted in 2016. This woman, who I had the absolute honor of meeting through interacting with her work in the digital space, is currently disrupting the education space as an associate professor in graphic design at MICA. She has had an amazing career path from being a designer, researcher, artist, educator. Honestly, like, what hasn't this woman done? So please welcome Elaine Lopez.
Hi, Mitzi.
Hi, what's up?
You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. So how are you going to be blowing our minds today?
I'm gonna show a little keynote. So let me hit play on this.
All right.
Let me know if this works.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
How does that look?
Let's see. I don't see your screen. Are you
Oh. Yeah. Hold on. Here we go. Keynote. Yeah. This is what I was afraid of. Okay. Okay, here we go. How's that look?
I'm not seeing anything.
No? Okay, how about
your screen in the, are you pressing the share screen in the Zoom panel?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Got it. Yes. All right.
Yes. Great.
Bye.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Mitzi, Garrett, and everybody who played a part in making this happen. My name is Elaine Lopez, and I use she, her pronouns. I am a Cuban-American graphic designer, and I currently teach graphic design at the Maryland Institute College of Art, like Mitzi said. And my work tries to set the conditions for communication around cultural diversity and inequality. And this project is an example of that, maybe even the first example for me. Here we go. So after working in Chicago for 10 years and experiencing the lack of non-white designers firsthand, I had the opportunity to serve on the board of AIGA as the diversity and inclusion lead, along with LaShawn Tynes. Hi, LaShawn, hope you're watching. During that year, we hosted several amazing events to celebrate marginalized designers and promote diversity in the Chicago design community. This event in particular was called Celebrating Creativity in the Black Community, and it was hosted in partnership with the Metropolitan Board of the Chicago Urban League. We wanted to celebrate Black History Month with a panel discussion featuring local Black creatives. We talked about the panelists' creative process, their work, challenges, and successes with a focus on how their creative projects connect with their Black heritage. This event was amazing. We filled a large room with the most diverse and beautiful crowd at any AIGA event I have ever attended. This was largely due to the partnership with the Metropolitan Board of the Chicago Urban League and the fans and followers of our brilliant panelists. The best part for me of any event is meeting new people afterwards. And after this particular event, someone came up to me and said something that I had heard many times before. We have a hard time hiring designers of color. Even though we were in a room full of Black and brown people at an event designed to encourage networking, people didn't make those connections. And I think we need to question the effectiveness of networking events, especially in regards to increasing diversity. It's interesting to look back at 2017 from today's perspective. I cringe at the use of the term people of color in this project because it oversimplifies the challenges that marginalized people from different groups face in the design industry, and specifically Black designers. I was more naive in 2017, and I thought that the lack of diversity in design could be treated as an opportunity to conduct design research. I was wrong, but I think this project still has value for other reasons. First, it exposes the biases that still exist in this industry. And second, I'm sharing this with all of you today so that you can take it and replicate it. This project is open source. Take what you need from this report, replicate the survey in your own community, and hold people accountable from here on out. So back to the question at hand. We have a hard time hiring designers of color. I can't see your hands right now, but at this point, I would ask you to raise your hand if you've ever heard this or have said this yourself before. This project unpacks what that really means and what we can do to change this misconception. So with the help of Maris Garcia, a brilliant design researcher and friend, we came up with questions to get a better understanding of how small studios approach hiring. I then created a list of the top independent design studios in Chicago and gathered their emails. I popped those questions into a Typeform survey that you're seeing right here, and I emailed each participant directly. I think it's really important to send emails to people, you know, honestly, directly, and openly, and I received a really great response to this survey as a result. I then sorted out all of the responses I received into different categories and designed them into this PDF to be presented, shared, and distributed. Here's what this report looks like. So from here on out, I'm going to be sharing this work. So the 2016 Design Census was an initiative started by Antoinette Carroll, I think for this very reason. It showed that of the 293 people that responded to the survey in Chicago, only 78 of them did not identify as white. Chicago's a very diverse city, about 1/3 white, 1/3 Black, and 1/3 Latinx. And where were all the Black, Indigenous, and POC designers? So, here we go. Yeah. Oh, I'm frozen. Give me a second. So, yeah. Give me one moment. Thanks, Keynote.
It's all good, Elaine. Take your time.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, here we go. It was just stuck. It happens. Here we are. So I kept the participants anonymous to protect their privacy, and I'm really grateful for their trust and candid responses. I received responses from 15 designers in charge of hiring, 9 men, 5 women, all based in Chicago. Great. Okay. So I reached out to owners of small independent studios because in my experience, they tend to be less diverse. This slide shows how many people were employed at each of these companies at the time. I asked, one of the first questions I asked was where these job openings are posted. At the time, studios mostly use Facebook to post openings, but I would be really curious to see where people post jobs now, only 3 years later. Today, it feels like I see job postings exclusively on Instagram, but yeah, I think things are changing really quickly in this space. So it's always important to keep in mind where jobs opportunities are popping up. All right. The next slide I'm going to talk about is so of these places where people post jobs, which of these tend to yield the most hires? And based on the research, actually, regardless of where people are posting jobs, the #1 place where people tend to get hired is actually word of mouth. To me, this was a big moment of revelation. I guess I always knew this, but when you're hiring people specifically through word of mouth and your networks are not diverse, you get to the source of the problem, right? If your network does not represent a wide range of people, then you're not going to hire designers of color. So give me 1 second. So, okay, back, take a deep breath and we're back. So if word of mouth is the most common way designers are being hired, companies need to expand their networks to include more people of color. The next slide is what are the top priorities when hiring designers for your team? People claim that talent is the top priority for hiring, and this has its own issues as talent is usually defined by the opportunities you've had access to. I learned design at a public university. I taught at a portfolio school. I furthered my education at a private art and design school, and now I teach at a similar institution. And I can tell you that students are just as talented everywhere you go. But I want to draw your attention to the second priority for hiring, which is cultural fit. In an article from 2018 in the Harvard Business Review, Patty McCord states that finding the right people is also not a matter of cultural fit. What most people really mean when they say someone is a good cultural fit is that he or she is someone they'd like to have a beer with. But people with all sorts of personalities can be great for the job you need done. This misguided hiring strategy can also contribute to the company's lack of diversity, since often the people we enjoy hanging out with have backgrounds very much like our own. So every design studio should strive to hire as many different people as possible and change their studios so that everyone they hire feels comfortable bringing their whole selves to work. The next slide I want to show is 5. It's got like a big 5 on the corner. Just, yeah. So then I got into the real question. So despite going through all of the trouble to conduct this research, when I asked employers if diverse applicants apply to their postings, they all said yes. I then asked them why they think this happens, and their responses fell into 3 categories. A, I don't know. B, because of our clients, or C, we have made this a priority. Next slide. So to get more specific, here is how participants in the first category responded, right? They said, I don't know, it just happens. We're not so sure. We only hire based on talent. The next slide shows, you know, some companies work for diverse clients, therefore it is important that their team reflects who they're working with. Also, I think companies are becoming aware of the fact that they want to work with design studios that are actually reflective of the communities they serve. Next slide, 5C. So this category shows a concerted effort to increase diversity of their teams, posting jobs in more accessible places that don't require a membership or a paywall, using language that explicitly states that diversity is a priority, and the fact that having a diverse team leads to more diverse applicants. So some of the responses here talk about, you know, equal opportunity language, or we have made diversity and inclusion a priority. And the fact that it also helps that a team is not just comprised of white men. So the insight in this section is that a strong portfolio and a reputation will attract designers to apply to job postings. However, inclusive language and a diverse team will make designers from different backgrounds feel less intimidated about applying. So slide 7, I asked the question, what are some of the challenges with hiring diverse applicants? In the interest of time, you notice I may have skipped through some of the sections, but I really want to get to the interesting responses. So when I asked about the challenges of hiring diverse applicants, I received a wider range of responses, right? So, and I'll just get right in. So 7A shows design studios that say, you know, we don't have any problems, like none, everything's fine, we're great, right? People think this isn't a problem, and I think it's important to note that many of these places did not have Black employees at the time. Category 7B reflects more closely to the responses I was expecting. So why aren't designers applying? To me, this one falls on schools, right? When I attended grad school 3 years ago, there was only 1 Black grad student out of almost 30 students. The lack of access to design education is appalling, and this directly affects who gets to enter this industry. Slide 7C, for me, was a moment of truth, right? It's hard to break out of our circles and reach people we don't know. Most of our hires tend to come from our local network or a referral from current staff. And someone here says referrals are about 90% of the time. So again, if your network is not diverse, you're not really gonna get those applicants from word of mouth. So 7D, this one is another matter of networks, if you ask me. So portfolios not being well received by our design team, making the case to hire them if their education degree isn't as impressive. To me, this has nothing to do with actual talent of BIPOC designers and everything to do with access. If these elite institutions are charging $50,000 a year to attend, this is always going to be a problem. Like, not to say that there aren't more affordable ways to receive a design education. And actually, I think those are just going to become more popular as long as these institutions continue to charge what they're charging for school. So 7E, so the lack of diversity in and of itself is maybe more of a turnoff for a more diverse crowd, which keeps this community in its current state of homogeneity. And to me, this brings us right to where we are, right? There's more to this report, and I encourage you to download, share, and replicate it in any way that you see useful. But I just want to point out that for a long time now, I have felt that we as designers sometimes sell ourselves short. I conducted this research with no funding and just a little help from my friends. Um, I want to give a shout out to Mitzi, who in less than a month and during a global pandemic was able to pull together a whole ass conference that we're all experiencing right now. Literally, her first post for this event was on June 5th, and we're on June 27th right now. Black designers don't need the approval or recognition of racist, sexist, toxic, and played out institutions, companies, and industries who are unwilling to make room. Your culture, identity, and personal experiences are an asset, actually, and it no longer matters if this industry wants to include you because you have your network right here. I've been watching the Slack channel. I've been looking at Instagram. Like, I connected with more people, I think, in the past 3 weeks than I have maybe in my whole career. So this network is here, and we need to tap into it. I suggest we create new BIPOC-led companies and institutions that allow people to bring their whole selves and use design as a medium for innovative communication, research, and self-expression. I have this really arresting visual, but I guess I'll ask you to conduct this experiment yourself. So if you Google famous graphic designers right now, the images that are going to come up are all white, literally everybody there. I know that this is not the most accurate or comprehensive way to define an industry, but any other list you come up with is most likely to be just as white. This story is incomplete. Let's work to redefine what it means to be a designer, who gets to practice, and who we celebrate. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, Elaine, I love this. Thank you so much for sharing your survey. And also thank you for making it available to people so they can take this back and reflect this to their companies. And so I have a couple of questions for you. So between 2016, when you did your survey, and now, what do you think has happened in the industry in terms of diversity? Has things gotten worse? Have they gotten better? Are they the same? What's your take on it?
I mean, I think they haven't changed. I think that this is the moment, right? Like, this is where things changed. I conducted this survey in 2017. Again, I felt like I was naive. I was really frustrated. I wasn't finding other people at work. And I even went to grad school, right? Like, I gave up my career because I was like, I need to really stop and think about what is going on here. Little did I know, when I got to grad school and into this like elite design university system, the problem was even worse. I was like, oh no, this is actually the root of all of this. There are no people of color here. There are no people creating the scholarship that we need to teach these classes. So I think we're in a real turning point right now, and this is sort of the moment where we say, enough. I'm tired. I don't want to have this conversation anymore. Like, I want to make work about my culture and heritage, and I don't want to like preach to people about the importance of diversity. If you don't get it by now, like, I'm sorry, we're just going to create new companies. Like, gotta go.
Say it louder for the people in the back. Anyway,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the talk. I appreciate your time and energy into this conference, and I will see you later in the digital space somewhere.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.